everybody. I am doing it this time on multiple platforms live, so let's see how that goes. Coming to you from Istanbul, heading to Mallorca tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Never been there. So we are now approaching the new moon in Virgo. Virgo is the sign of the priestess. Doing it this time. Here we go. And so this is a time when we are sorting, we're sifting the chaff from the wheat, we're discerning what it is that we want in our life and what it is that we don't, based on whether or not it is healthy, whether it's good for us. You'll often see, this sign portrayed with the sheaf of wheat, which is synonymous with Demeter, the mother goddess, who asks, is this really nourishment for me? So we do have a stellium of planets retrograde, 6 to be precise. So you might feel like you've got big plans, but you can't move forwards due to all the nitty-gritty details that might be driving you bonkers. I know I've been feeling that. We have Jupiter, the planet of expansion, the biggest planet in our solar system in Taurus, so the sign of our desires, the first earth sign, Virgo being the second earth sign. And so we might be feeling, like we really want to act on our desires, but that we're stuck in some way, particularly around finances, which is what Taurus governs. So it's important to remember this sign, which can get a bit hung up on perfectionism, that everything is perfect, even when we can't see it, that there is a divine inherent perfection running through our lives. I know I've been listening to healing frequencies every day the last week, including today, really just affirming that everything in my life is a blessing and a miracle. And the more that we attune to that, as Einstein said, is it a friendly universe? The most important question we can ask ourselves, because if we think that it is, reality is subjective, and that will be what we experience. We'll experience the universe being friendly, going our way, being at our back, so to speak. So, this is a time to really bless everything, which, invites that attitude of gratitude, but the mystic that can see what the blessing in it is, even if our nitpicky mind can't. So Jupiter retrograde will be joining Mercury, of course, which has been retrograde for the last 2.5 weeks, and will go direct just after this new moon. So I'll speak to that in a bit, but it'll be joining Saturn retrograde, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and Chiron. So that's a lot of inward activity at the moment, of deep self-review, self-analysis, examination, reflection, all the above. A good time for journaling. So, if you haven't had that conversation with yourself for a while, Virgo invites us to, exercise containment. So really taking up with ourselves, really doing the work of self-inquiry. New moon is a time of new beginnings. Just going to have a sip. I was in bed the last week with, the little C, not the big C, Cancer, but the little C. And the blessing in that was I had to face myself. I had to do containment, and it was like a vision quest. Wow, fevers, they really get you to journey your fears, and Virgo, the sign of healing, of health, asks us, what is making us sick? Yeah. How are we making ourselves sick? Are we worried sick? Yeah. What are we focusing on? And, Virgo rules the pancreas, the small intestinal tract, digestion. So, it's important that we, particularly if we've got dodgy gut health, but regardless, really take back our power as our own healers and, look at, okay, when I do this, cause and effect. Okay, so the opposite sign is Pisces, the mystic. And for us to empower Virgo, we need to be in right relationship with the opposite sign of Pisces, which is, I spoke about this at the full moon in Pisces 2 weeks ago, that Pisces can be a worrywart, and that if we focus on what we don't want, then the subconscious brings that into being, and so this sickness can be an opportunity to take our power back, to look at where we are giving our power away by not showing up for ourselves, not giving ourselves the sacred space that we need to really confront our fears directly, so that they're not disrupting our sleep quality, they're not something we're fixating on. So also, I spoke of discernment. This is a sign that asks us to exercise boundaries. Now, boundaries, for the uninitiated, for the immature, boundaries are a dirty word. Child doesn't like an adult to say no to them, and a 2-year-old just loves it when they find the word no, when they get to exercise the power of choice, So, boundaries can be pretty loaded. And this is a good time to ask, what boundaries do I need to set? And to do that, we need to first identify what we need. So, it's one who is mature, one who has, taken that time, that sacred space and time to meet up with themselves and go, hang on a second, where am I in this equation? What do I need? And then voice that. And then notice what kind of response you get from the people around you. Because, when we set a boundary, it's pretty much the fastest way to discern the level of maturity of those that we're surrounding ourselves with. Because, those that aren't comfortable with us saying no and setting a boundary, that's a flag that they're projecting onto us, parent, okay, that we exist for them. We're there to hold space, to listen, to affirm, to validate them, and not have needs of our own. So, it's a good time to sort of notice if you say, actually, no, I need this, or I would prefer you don't do that, and somebody escalates, somebody really arcs up, then this is a flag, it's like this is more of a parent-child dynamic. And so, it's important as the moon wanes down to the shadow in Virgo, to really scrutinize who is imposing on our energy, on our time, on our emotional body, on our psychological or lower mental body. And if we do speak up to try and put some parameters around what is appropriate, do they, arc up and become more demanding and overemphasize their needs being more important than ours, like a child? So, this also reminds me of the lesson with, the labors of Hercules, when he journeys through Virgo, he not accidentally, he kills Hippolyta, the Amazon queen, not realizing that she's actually extending an olive branch, and she is, but because he's seeing through a projection of wound, he anticipates war where there isn't, and destroys her for fear of being destroyed, i.e. he attacks somebody who is not attacking him. So, that's something to keep in mind, particularly as this moon wanes down to the new moon in Virgo, which is when we can really see the shadow of that sign or be tested on the lesson of that sign. And, shadow Virgo is being critical to a fault. Okay, so Virgo is good at being able to troubleshoot to see what the problem is, because if you don't even identify the problem, how can you come up with a solution? But, if we're sort of hyper fixating on a problem, then it's like we can destroy that which we're trying to create, or whether it's a relationship or whatever. So Virgo is the Vestal Virgin, as she was known in Rome, but she is the sacred vessel. So prior to that, this is the Vesica Pisces, the cup, the Grail, that is the receptacle for divine inspiration from the mystic, from Pisces, the opposite sign. So, if we see the Grail symbol of the mandala, the two intersecting circles, we get that Vesica Pisces, the lozenge shape, the yoni shape in the middle. And that is the sacred opening, but it's a sacred space. So again, this is emphasizing, if we want to bring through the intuitive insights to guide ourselves with the voice of inner wisdom, rather than being, all down into our worst case scenario, Murphy's Law fears, then we need to take space. We need, that just giving ourselves regular space and time to listen to ourselves means that we don't have to have a healing crisis in order to do it, but also that through making that space, we are creating the balance between the opposing polarities within ourselves, rather than, careening from one side of the road to the next and causing an accident. So, if you've been sort of giving too much of yourself away, or giving away too much of yourself, either way, same thing, being too available, okay, then this is a time to, exercise an acknowledgement that you have limits. We all have limits. Yes, whilst the divine is limitless, us in a human mortal coil are not. We do have limits, and we need to honor those limits. Otherwise, we're going to get sick. So, you might even just want to ask, if we think about Pisces being law of karma, the final sign, which is learning through the universal law of cause and effect, asking, what effect does this interaction or this dynamic with this person or this situation have on my energy, on my psychological state, on my emotional body, on my physical well-being? Do I feel drained afterwards? So this is also a time for us to discern who is an ally, who's an enemy, what is a test. Okay, that's part of the hero's journey, so I won't go too deeply into that, but we're going to see perhaps someone we thought was an ally, actually, when push comes to shove, we just don't feel safe, and we need to listen to that rather than override it and then set ourselves up for an even greater fall. And this is a time to remember that life is sacred, and we are sacred. I am sacred. So if we really believe that 100%, how would our life look different? What choices would we make? How would we do life differently, particularly in our physical world, because it's an earth sign? So this is a time to look at, or rather listen to, our inner consciousness in terms of what we need to thrive. And I'll give you an example again from my recent week in bed, which, the gift in that was, the last time I had this, I was laid out for 3 months, and, I was just binge watching Call the Midwife and eating biscuits and drinking tea, really. But this time I listened to that inner guru, and it said, hang on a minute, you know more about this now. You know that it's not a virus. You know that it's a synthetic venom bioweapon. So how are you going to do it differently? It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to support my liver. I'm going to drink a ton of lemon water. I'm going to do a water fast and then just bring back fruit to cleanse, and then broths, and stay off sugar, carbs, caffeine, sleep, 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 sleep. So just give the body what it needs to heal, even stop taking all supplements, even though rationally you'd go, oh, should be taking vitamin C and zinc. Yeah, if it was a virus, but not if it's, a poison to overloading the liver. You don't want to overload the liver with more supplements. And fortunately, following that inner guidance, I was able to shift it in just days this time. So, yeah, this is a time for really owning that when we listen to that consciousness, and we're being sort of conditioned out of that, our dependency on devices means that we're not listening to the inner self as much. And that's way more better than Google, That's not good grammar, but whatever. So Venus is going to be opposite Hygeia, the asteroid goddess of health and healing, who is shown as the twin serpents on the central pillar. Yes, the symbol of Caduceus that was appropriated by man-made pharmaceutical petrochemical medicine, but originally meant Kundalini, yes, raising one's consciousness. So this is going to highlight our ability to do what is self-loving for our well-being, particularly after emerging from the 40-day descent of Venus on September 4. So we have Venus still in Leo, now direct, and she is squaring Jupiter, so challenging us to be the biggest version of ourselves at the moment by listening to the call of our heart. And Venus is in an exact conjunction this new moon, so 0 degrees, appearing as if she's on top of, wait for it, drum roll, ring, Juno, the asteroid goddess of marriage. Yes, the wife archetype, wife of Zeus, venerated long before patriarchy, when she got kind of reduced to just the jealous wife, because Zeus was always off philandering, having affairs. But, this is about us scrutinizing what is it that I want in partnership. This is for men and women, yeah? We've all got a Venusian side to us, a side that is loving, that has the capacity to love, that is saying, particularly around this new moon, I want a sacred relationship, because Virgo is about a sacred container for mutual healing and growth. So this is highlighting that, and sort of, again, highlighting the relationships that don't feel like a safe, sacred container for healing and growth. So, Mars in Libra, the sign of relationships, means that we're going to take action on whether that's healing relationships, being the peacemaker, healing rifts, conflicts. But yeah, this is a time of looking at things from both perspectives, not just from our own, which is when we can get headstrong and righteous and superior, and that, of course, polarizes and creates conflict. Oh, we're so human, aren't we, all of us? So this is a time to scrutinize all of our habits and routines and sort of revise what we are doing, how we're showing up for ourselves around our health, and whether or not we're overworking, because Virgo is also the sign of work. So you might find that you overwork in the lead up to this new moon, and make a vow not to do that again, and look at how you can work in a way that is more sustainable, more healthy. Now, I did say, by the way, it's also a great time for a spring clean or an autumn clean, before the equinox a week after this new moon on the 22nd or the 23rd, depending on which side of the date line you're on. I did say that I'd speak about Mercury in a bit more detail. It will be going direct just after this new moon. And that means that it's going to be conjunct this new moon. So Mercury, the smallest, fastest personal planet closest to the sun, moves the quickest. So, we can move mountains with the right word, with the right communication. And Mercury being conjunct this new moon means communications are going to have incredible lasting effects, keeping in mind, this is the new moon before the start of the next eclipse season. So, it's kind of like if there's change that needs to be made, do it now so that you don't end up having it done to you. It's like if we can be preemptive, then it's going to be more graceful. So, yeah, if there's something you need to say, something that's eating away at you, keeping you awake at night, impacting your nervous system, then this is the new moon that will say, hey, you need to reach out and say something. Retrograde Uranus, the planet of the unexpected, of miracles, of sudden change, will be trine, so forming a 60-degree helpful angle to the sun. And that's going to help to show us how we can do things differently. And retrograde Neptune will give us sort of guidance on that intuitively, so that we see maybe from a dream, or a flash of insight in the early hours between 4 and 6 a.m., which is soul time. Not the time necessarily to sing Barry White, but the time to get downloads. So, this is definitely a time when the spotlight's going to be on health, on work, and asking, is this really all there is? Is this fulfilling for my soul, or am I living to work rather than working to live? Yes, I've got that round the right way. In other words, is this aligning with my deepest values of how I want to serve? Doing what I love the most, utilizing, what I care about most deeply, or am I in servitude? Am I being a servant? And you'll know the difference by whether or not you're feeling, resentful, and a bit, martyred. Again, shadow Pisces. The new moon forming a semi-square to the North Node asks us to consider whether the direction that we're headed in is actually feeling good emotionally. So we could be challenged in some way with an emotionally charged encounter or an emotional lesson. So it's important that, we don't allow ourselves to be emotionally manipulated or manipulate others to get what we want, to move forwards. And with the new moon forming an exact conjunction with the goddess of storms and chaos, Eris, unexpected change, then absolutely we need to, really be true to ourselves, to our true north, regardless of the reactions of other people or even the threat of how they could react. So I hope that's helpful for you, and thanks so much for tuning in. You have my blessing to share this with friends and loved ones. And take some time to honor yourself as the sacred being that you are. I've been laying down, putting, crystals on me, such as shungite and smoky quartz and hematite, to draw out the fear-based negative energies while listening to, beautiful healing Hertz music, and feeling good for it. I also rewatched, there's a film on Netflix at the moment put out by the makers of The Secret, which is a drama. It's, romance really, but it's very much about, focusing on what we do want rather than what we don't want. So a good timely watch for that as well. All right, can't remember what it's called. I think it's called The Secret Dare to Dream. There it is. Great. All right, wherever you are in the world, blessings for now and on your approaching new moon this week. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye. Oh, importante. Stay tuned. I am launching a new program, a new video series this week. It's called Awakening the Sacred Masculine. So those of you who are my subscribers, and you can subscribe on the homepage of my website, themoonwoman.com. If you sign up, you'll be sure to hear about it, but I'll also be putting it on my socials. So